Today's episode is sponsored by the International Association of Creative Arts Professionals. Make your dream of a creative business a reality with help from the International Association of Creative Arts Professionals. For more than 20 years, ICAP has been the go-to resource for thousands of creatives around the world. Whether you're looking for peer support through their Creative Passion to Profit Facebook group, help taking your business to the next level through the ICAP membership, the chance to work on, not in your business at the annual conference, or private coaching, you'll find just what you need. Head on over to joinicap.com/walshinapps and grab your free creative arts business blueprint and poster to get started. And if you decide to uplevel your business with an ICAP Elevating membership, you'll enjoy 10% off with the code ABBY, that's ABBY, all in caps, when you check out. Thank you so much, ICAP. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode 95 of the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today, we are talking about embroidery and fabric collage with my guest, Nichole Vogelsinger. Nichole's interest in fiber arts is rooted in a childhood spent dabbling in knitting, crochet, cross-stitch, and any other craft that involved using hands versus a sewing machine. She comes from a family of quilters, which helped to immerse her in the world of fabric and color and pattern. Several years ago, she turned her focus toward embroidery and began creating hoop art that combined her love of fabric, especially modern fabrics and designs, with her love of texture and color. By combining applique techniques with the blank canvas of a fabric, she approaches embroidery with a free-spirited style. She shares her creative process on Instagram as @wildboho, and I'm super excited to have her on the show today. So Nichole Vogelsinger, welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great talking to you. First, I want to say congratulations to you on the publication of your first book.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really exciting.
It's called Boho Embroidery, Modern Projects from Traditional Stitches, and I have it right here sitting next to me. It's published by Lucky Spool. I bought my copy a couple of weeks ago after following you on Instagram for a long time, and I am actually almost finished with my first project from the book now, which is super awesome. So thank you for putting this out into the world.
Oh, thank you. I've been following your boho stitching, and I can't wait to see what you're making.
Yeah, it's so fun. I really, really like it. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. So to start out, I think it could be interesting to trace how the book came to be, because I think that's something people are sort of curious about, especially from someone like you who, I mean, you've been on the craft scene for a while. You had an Etsy shop way back, in 2007. So it's not like you're brand new, but I do feel like your visibility has taken off quite a bit in the last year or two. You feel free to disagree with me if I'm wrong on that, but that's kind of my sense. And I think people kind of wonder, well, how does that happen? Like, how does somebody kind of seemingly burst onto the scene? And how did they make that happen for themselves? So if you can kind of take us back to that first Etsy shop concept and then kind of let's trace your creative path to how you got to this book.
Okay. So yeah, it was back in 2007. I started an Etsy shop just because I was doing office work during the day, but that wasn't really where my interests were. So I would get home at night and I just wanted to do something creative. We had a really cool scrapbooking store nearby with really awesome papers. And so I figured out a way to make jewelry combining metal and paper. And I think that was what started my introduction into the quilting fabric, the really cool fabrics that were coming out a few years later. So I did that for a few years, and I wanted a project that I could incorporate these fabrics into, but I wasn't into sewing as much as I could have been. Coming from a background where my mom and my grandmother were big into sewing and quilting, and I just didn't get it. I got the fabric, but I didn't get the sewing end of things. So I was into fabrics, and I was like, well, how can I use these fabrics in interesting ways that I could actually see the things that I'm making without actually getting into the scary world of sewing machines. To me, they were scary. so I started, buying up fat quarters, just little bits of things that I liked. And I started playing around with mixing and matching fabrics. I knew how to do needlework I used to do cross stitch. I was not super into cross stitch, but it was something that I did because I could do it with my hands. And I started to teach myself embroidery. And I thought it's really fun to put these fabrics together and then to layer embroidery on them. And it was something I could do when I was going places. I could sit in the car and do it. I had 2 small kids, so I could do that while they were napping. I didn't need to remember where I was in a pattern or a project and have to leave it for a few hours and then come back. Like, I liked the portability of handwork like that. And then Instagram, I saw crafters were putting things on Instagram, and I didn't want to flood my friends' personal feeds with all of the things that I was making. So I just started sharing things on Wild Boho on Instagram, and it just seemed to get a following from there. And with more fabrics that came out, I mean, there's really awesome fabrics that I just love, and they're inspiring to me. That helped me to put other things together. And I think the Instagram world was really helpful, both in inspiring me, giving me ideas, and also helping to inspire others and bring a sense of community to the crafting, which is really enjoyable.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Instagram, because I agree with you that I feel like that's where your, traction has sort of come from. And it's fascinating to me because I'm like a blogger from the old days. Like, I've been blogging for a really long time before Instagram came around and stuff. And so I think that now, you really can build a career based on an Instagram presence. Obviously, you're doing other things too. You have a website, you have a shop, et cetera. But, you can really gain traction there. So I'm curious to hear about how you approach Instagram and like maybe how you're approaching it now, like what your routine looks like on a day-to-day basis, and sort of how you think about your Instagram presence.
Instagram is kind of incredible. I didn't expect it to be as big as it is, but it has been instrumental in helping me with the process. I love looking at other people's creative pictures. So I try to just do the same thing that I enjoy looking at. The fabrics, the threads that I'm working with. I like to show some of my favorite things, little snippets of ideas that I'm coming up with. I don't have a daily, like, I must post at this time sort of deal, but it is always kind of running through the back of my head with different projects I'm working on. And, there's good lighting right now. I could take a picture of this and maybe I'll use it later. And just connecting with people that way is really fun too.
And about how many times a day would you say you're posting?
Usually just once a day. Once in a while, if it's something, really cool, I'll post another thing. On Sundays, I always have which I think we'll talk about later, the boho stitch along post. I've been doing that. That gives me a focus for Sunday, at least, something that I had been working on earlier in the week. I share on Sundays, but normally I just post once a day. And it's usually something current that I've been working on. Sometimes I'll use, shots from the book or embroidery stitches or different tools, but it's whatever is currently on my mind.
Okay. And let's actually find out about that boho stitch along now, because is that a particular hashtag that you have, or is that something that you're running on your blog and then is sort of coming over to Instagram, and are other community members participating?
Yes. So on Instagram, the hashtag is boho SAL for boho stitch along. It's a stitch along that I thought of in January. It's something that I like to do. I take a piece of fabric that I love to look at, that I plan on using to hang in my house one day. And I just take it little by little, stitching when I have time. I wanted it to be a stitch along that didn't have like deadlines, because I'm not great following along with things like that. So I didn't want people to feel pressure joining this stitch along. I wanted it to be low key, stitch when you have time, share your ideas. On Sundays, I do post what I've been working on for the week. And I also do a blog post that day. I'll sometimes share other things from that hashtag that I've really been enjoying watching progress, or I'll share tips, different fabrics I really like. So Sundays are my blog days. I'm not as good with blogging as I am with Instagram. Instagram is great because it's little snapshots, and I'm really busy with little kids and, just life. So it lets me be in the creative world for a little bit while I'm going about my life. But blogging is something I do on Sundays just for that specific thing right now.
And I like that you're talking about how you incorporate Instagram into a real life, because I'm a mom of kids, little kids too. I think many listeners are, or if they're not, they have other things going on. They might have a day job. They might have other people that they're caring for in their life, or they're just busy. And so it can kind of seem daunting, like, well, how are you going to find time to do this? And so I really think it's good to share with people, well, how do you find time to do this? And it sounds as though you're not necessarily taking a batch of photos on, one day of the week and then meeting them out, throughout the week, but you're actually sort of in the moment taking a shot and then using that on Instagram right then.
Exactly. I wish I had more time to more dedicated time during the day where I could say, okay, this is where I'm going to take my pictures. And once I do it, it's done for the week. I mean, with life, there's just not time for that. Most of my stitching is done at night when kids are asleep and everything's done for the day and I can actually concentrate on it. And everything else that I do is slotted in between all of my day-to-day things that I have to do.
Right. So you're actually taking the photo during the daytime, right? Am I right about that? So you get the good light.
Yeah, exactly. I live in a cool old town, and there's always neat, like, brickwork and houses. And I try to incorporate stuff like that because I really like that kind of urban, industrial sort of feel to the backgrounds of really cool fabrics and stuff. So yeah, I'm always looking when I'm out for cool places to take pictures, but they're usually done quickly as I'm driving past on the way to something else.
Right. Okay. And I think that's good. That's realistic. And I also think it's cool that you're using Instagram as an art form. I mean, so you're making art, obviously, with the embroidery, but you're also making a different kind of art, which ends up being on Instagram. And you're using it as a creative tool that, both fuels your creativity and also builds community.
Exactly. And it does. I'm always looking, like, what could make a really cool picture, something that I would like to look at if I were looking at someone else's pictures. So that's what's in the back of my head as I'm stitching something or driving around looking for little locations. What could look cool as art as well?
Right. So people who are artistic, this is another opportunity to do that. You can, and you're taking these photos just with your phone, right?
Yeah. I wish I had a fancy camera, but it's all with my iPhone, which does really good pictures.
Yeah. And are you using a lot of like filters or processing afterward? Are you just doing like none or a little bit?
I do a tiny bit of filters. I like the app, A Color Story. I like that because I can keep things. I don't want it to look overly filtered. I want people to see the real colors of fabrics, and I want it to look real. But I do like a little filtering.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I will link to that app so people can go and check it out, just to touch up their photos a little bit, to make them a little more visually appealing. Go back now to that first Etsy shop, because I actually think that there is an artistic consistency in a certain kind of interesting way between what you were making then and what you're making now. And also because you've pivoted. And I think pivoting is something people really fear. Like, I'm known for one thing, I can never change. I can never sort of change my mind or take up a new interest, because my following, my customer base will drop off, and that feels really scary. So,
right.
So tell us what exactly you were making in 2007 in the first Etsy shop. And then it sounds like you might have closed it up for a little while, and then reopened it doing something different.
Yeah. So I started making jewelry. I did two types of jewelry. The one was the more artsy. I took metal washers and I had my Mod Podge and my really cool scrapbook papers. And I pretty much did exactly what I'm doing now with fabric, only with paper and metal. So I would cut little elements out of the papers and I would put them onto backgrounds of other papers and seal it. And I made jewelry that way. I also did bridal jewelry out of beads and little gems. I found that was something I got a lot of custom requests for. I wasn't as into that, but it was something I could do and it helped bring in a little bit of money. So that was helpful. I did close up the shop when I think it was when I had kids. I just got, engrossed in other things. But then as I started to come out of that fog of little kids, I wanted to get my creativity back. And that's when I started with the fabrics, doing exactly the same thing, only in hoops
and what's
with
so
fabric.
What's so interesting is that it's still round. Like back
exactly
the washers. Like I went back to your Etsy shop to see like in the way back, what you were selling, and they were around a circular washer with basically fussy cutting, scrapbooking motif from paper, and now you're using an embroidery hoop and fussy cutting fabric. So it's really kind of that same circular composition.
Yes, I hope I've come a long way in my photographs because I look back at those things that I was making and I'm like, oh, those pictures, how did I even sell things? But yes, it's definitely the rounds. I don't know what it is about that I like so much, but it is a palette I like to work with.
Right, exactly. And did you change the name of the shop?
It started off as Island Baby. And to be completely honest, I can't even remember how I came up with that name. It gradually changed to Wild Boho. I like the bohemian feel of what I do with the fabric. And also that I feel like not having a strict pattern to follow or a set of stitches that you must do on something. I feel like that encompasses the work that I do. And so I liked the boho part of that. And that's what I talk about a lot in my book too. Like just I give you ideas, but it's more coming up with things on your own, as opposed to following a pattern.
Absolutely. And that's what's so cool about this book. I almost feel like you've invented this combination between fabric collage and embroidery where, when I sat down to do my project from the book, I literally just took out like a big bucket of scraps, went through, found some interesting motifs from fabric, some of which I've had forever, fussy cut them out, and then used, it's like a fusible web, I guess, that you can use to adhere it to the base fabric, and then just took out like a whole big bucket of embroidery floss and got to work. Like just whatever you want to do to embellish, to add stitching, you can outline it, you can add French knots, you can really do whatever. And it does have that wild feeling.
Yes. And just having fun with it, not stressing out over it that's what I like about this. I want it to be relaxing and something that I enjoy coming back to every day. And it is. I think I've come up with something that I do really enjoy doing.
Yeah. And it's sort of counter to that, I don't know, sort of staid or traditional feeling of embroidery in which it needs to be really perfect. You need to have a sampler where you're demonstrating your skill set and the back needs to be just as good as the front and all of that. And this is sort of saying, okay, well, there is something to be said for learning traditional stitches, but there's also something to be said for applying them to something completely creative and free.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I will occasionally post pictures of the backs of my hoops because it's crazy. Like there's craziness back there. I've got stitches that are crossed and mixed and everyone comments that it makes them feel so much better about their own work. So I think that's good. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's supposed to be fun and enjoyable.
I want to take a minute now to hear more from our sponsor, the International Association of Creative Arts Professionals.
I'm Morna McEver, founder and CEO of the International Association of Creative Arts Professionals and the Creative Arts Business Summit. Well, I grew up in a family with an artist mother, a sewer. She was also a watercolor artist, and a father who was a businessman. So as I look back, I can see that this really infused what I do today, because I work with largely women to help them craft business success from their creative passions. And being in the art environment for so long, I realized that it's so important that people get their art out in the world. And I believe that if they don't, the world is really less for it. So this is what drives me. And the problem is that people create and then they don't know how to run a business or how to market that business. So I've been doing this on one level for at least the last 20 some odd years. First as the publisher of a magazine called The Professional Quilter, and later known as Create Inc. And it just led to the association. It led to our annual conference where people come and just spend 3 days working on their business rather than in their business. And I feel that my own background, I was a maker and a seller for many, many years. And that I bring that particular strength to working with other people. I've been there and done that. So I know what their struggles are. And I know how much they really want to get their art out in the world. The International Association of Creative Arts Professionals is a membership association, and we offer a magazine. Our readers get a copy of Where Women Create Business. They get monthly coaching calls as a group. They get a monthly conversation on a particular business book, and we talk about how that will make a difference in their business. They have a Facebook page where they connect with each other and get their problems answered. So you have peer support, and then you get actual coaching from me in this particular group. I put together a product that we call the Creative Arts Business Blueprint, and it's 8 steps to turn your creative passion into a business. And it's the same, quote, formula that I use with all of my private clients and people who come to our event. Anybody who's listening can get that free if they go to joinicap.com/whileshenaps. You can also get a poster of the same 8 steps. And then if you choose to join us as a member of ICAP, which I certainly hope you do, if you use the code ABBY, all in caps, when you check out, you'll save 10% on our annual membership fee.
Thank you so much, ICAP. And now back to my conversation with Nichole. Here you are, new Etsy shop going with the hoops, and you're making them. You're building a following on Instagram, and then how did you interact initially with Suzanne Woods, who is the founder or president of Lucky Spool, which is the publisher of your book?
It's actually really cool, and it is all because of Instagram, which is incredible. She contacted me and she emailed me and said she had been following along for a while and really liked what I was coming up with, and had I ever thought of writing a book. And I was kind of like, wow, this is really cool. Like people really search for, when they want to write a book, they're putting proposals out there, and this kind of came to me, and I'm really fortunate in that, because I don't know that if I hadn't been approached, I don't know that I would have pursued writing a book. Writing is something I've always enjoyed, always liked doing. When I was younger, I wanted to be a writer, not of craft books, of, other whatever. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, I would enjoy doing this. And I wanted to write a book that I would want to learn from. I wanted to write a book that, and Suzanne was great to work with this when we were tossing ideas around. I mentioned to her that I wanted to have a book that from start to finish, somebody could learn how to embroider. They wouldn't need to get other reference books. They could learn all of the supplies, all of the stitches, and how to come up with something that they created. And she was great to work with in that way, and letting me kind of follow what I wanted to do with that.
Okay, so she contacted you. She saw you on Instagram. You started tossing ideas back and forth with one another, honing in on exactly the shape that the book would have. Did you then have to actually write a proposal or a table of contents or do a sample chapter? Tell us what happened next.
Yeah, I did. I mean, if you look at the Lucky Spool website, I think there's a section that if you want to submit something, all of the steps that you have to go through to submit an idea for a book. And I did have to do all of that. I had to come up with what I thought the book would look like, mood boards for what I pictured it to look like in the end, things I liked, design wise, all of the chapters and a sample chapter. And I think I had to have a proposal too. So yes, once she contacted me, I still had to go through all of the steps that, anybody submitting an idea would, which did help me. It helped me get my ideas, down for what I wanted to see in a book. And we stayed pretty close to what originally, I presented.
And I know that Holly DeGroot of Bijou Lovely did the photography, which is really beautiful. She did a wonderful job. And I'm wondering if you knew Holly in advance or how the partnership with her came to be.
I didn't know her other than through following her on Instagram and seeing her work there. Suzanne actually put the design team together for the book, and Holly was the photographer and stylist that she chose. And I was excited about that. But when it actually came to the point where I had to send all of my projects to Holly, that was one of the most stressful days because I had boxes of all of the projects and supplies, and I had to ship all of that to her. And then it was out of my hands and there was my book in her hands. And she did an incredible job. I saw the pictures when she first started sending them, and I couldn't believe they were my hoops. I was like, wow, I made this, but look how she put it in this setting that it made it look really cool. So I was just thrilled with her work.
Yeah, I think that's something that is interesting for people to realize is that when you do write a book, first of all, it is a real collaboration. It may be that you work on the manuscript and the projects in some form of, not isolation, but sort of on your own. But when it does move on to the next step, which is photography and styling and design of the actual layout of the book, those are in other artists' hands. And
exactly.
And so that's interesting because what happens is you see your work through the eyes of somebody else. And I'm wondering if you learned through that process some things about what is special about your work or what's attractive about it or what its potential could be.
Well, I think when I first started, when I'm taking it back to when I first started making hoops and doing embroidery, and people would ask me like, well, what am I supposed to do with this hoop? Like once I buy this, what do I do with it? Or if I make it, like, where do I put it? What am I supposed to do? It was really neat to see through Holly's eyes, the layouts of design, the things that she envisioned doing with the hoops. It made me appreciate my work a little bit more, seeing it that way. It made it feel a little bit more special. I'm just me sitting here stitching, and then finally seeing a finished product like that. It was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify, there are projects in the book where you are embellishing other things. It might start in a hoop, but then it becomes a bag, or it can become part of something you wear. But many of the hoops are, the embroidery hoop itself serves as a frame. And so you can stain the embroidery hoop, you can wrap it with cloth, you can paint it, but it serves as the frame. And so you put a nail on the wall and hang it when it's finished.
Right. And the one thing about the book, when Suzanne and I had first been talking, we both didn't want it to be a book full of specific projects that you had to do. Like many craft books will have, okay, well, here's, a project for a pincushion. You can use this pattern and you can make a pincushion. And here's another pattern for a bag, and you can use this pattern and this motif and do this bag. Those are great, but we didn't want this book to be that way. We wanted it to be more inspiring. So to give you ideas and then jump off from there and go your own direction with what you've learned through here.
Yeah. And I think though, the way that craft media is consumed has changed over the last, let's say 5 years for the majority of people. So if they do want to make a pincushion, for example, they can go to Pinterest, find a pattern, either a free pattern or they can buy a pattern, and they can make that exact pincushion without too much difficulty. Whereas maybe 10 years ago, we would certainly turn to a craft book to get a pattern for a pincushion or purchase a print pattern. Now it's really easy to find that sort of selection online. But what you can't find online is a whole body of work, of inspiring work from one artist that's put together. And I think in that way, there's still a lot of value in writing a book for you and also in buying a book for us as consumers, because we really see your whole way of thinking all together in one place. And yes, it may not be particular patterns, but we don't need particular patterns. What we need is a new way to approach creativity.
Exactly. And with the fabrics that are being designed, which constantly come out, and I'm just amazed by every, line that a designer has. It gives you ways to use, to keep using these fabrics in really fun and new ways, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So it builds on kind of intersection between quilting and embroidery. So people who are very into modern fabric designers and collect Allison Glass and, collect Tula Pink or whatever it might be, and have those scraps left over that are really cherished still. This gives you a way to put those to work. And I noticed that you have done some sewing for Quilt Market, and I wondered, did you do some for Libs Elliott's booth, I think? And I'm not sure if there's been others or not, but how did those come about? Because I know people email me often and say, I'd really like to sew some samples for designers for Quilt Market, and I don't know how to start doing that.
It was Daryl at Andover who first made contact with me, and that's how I first got started. She, through Instagram, saw the hoops that I was making and asked for a few. I think the first one that I did was for Downton Abbey, the first line of fabric that they had a few years back. And so what happened is she said, we need, a certain amount of hoops, and this is the fabric, and we need it by this date, and can you do it? And that's how it started. And then...
And did she find you because you had maybe bought some Andover fabric and had tagged Andover on Instagram?
I think
so that's how she found you?
I think hashtags are super important with that. And I do use Andover fabric and really did like it. I don't know if that's how she found me or if it was just through the crafting world on Instagram. But that is how it got started, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. So I think that it's important too, because sometimes people are fearful about putting their work out there. They're worried that it will get copied, or it will get pinned to Pinterest without proper attribution to them and that sort of thing. But on the flip side, when you do put things out there, you get new opportunities and it allows people to see your work.
Yeah, definitely. And sharing start by sharing small, just little bits of things. That's kind of what I do. And it's nerve-wracking to put something out there. You post something and you're like, oh, but what if everybody hates it? Like, what if it only looks good to me? You kind of have to get past that a little bit and have some confidence in what you're doing and putting out there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that those are great things to share because it helps people understand how to get seen. And it's really about basically doing what you wish your job was as though it were your job already, right? Like, you're like, oh, my job is to make these embroidery fabric collages, take really nice pictures of them, constantly sort of innovate and come up with new ways to do this and take more really nice pictures of them. And that's my job. And then over time, here we are. And you know what? It's become your job.
Exactly. And that's so cool. And it's fun how it happened.
Okay. So how long did it take you to write the book?
Let's see. So I believe I started writing in September of, we're in 2017. So it was 2015 I started. And I think I had about 6 months to write and do all of the projects and, do everything for the book before I had to submit it. And then from there, it was a few more months where photography was being done and the design of the book was being done. So that was the part that was kind of out of my hands, except for, editing things I had to take care of. So for me, the main part of it was about 6 months from start to finish.
Okay. And have you felt differently now that the book is out in the world? I mean, I know for me, when my first book came out, I didn't expect to feel differently. But once it came out, I did feel differently about my work and about sort of my feelings of like legitimacy. Like I'm really a designer. Like this is really what I do. I don't know whether you had that shift in mindset once, like, well, I wrote a book, so.
Well, you know what? I think it's when people comment, oh, I got your book and I'm doing this with it. And I picked up embroidery after so many years of not having touched a thread and needle. And I'm just so excited. That just makes me so happy when I hear that. And I think that's the most important part for me, just knowing that it has, because you put a book out there and you're not sure how it will be taken. And so when people are excited and they've learned something, that just makes my day every time I hear that.
And you do have print patterns in your shop. Did you have those patterns prior to the book deal?
No, I have. That's just something when I finished that book, I couldn't take on any other projects. But when I finished that, I started thinking like, well, what's my next step? My next step is that I want to create patterns that other people would like to do, to make hoop art. Now that they've learned the basics, here's a pattern that you can make your own with your own fabrics, and you've learned how to embroider. So here you go. Try this now.
Right. Okay. I see. So I wonder, I mean, for myself, when I finished writing my second book, that's exactly how I got into making patterns, because when you write a book, at least for me, you get into this rhythm where you have to create a new concept and a new pattern like every 3 weeks or whatever it is in order to meet your deadline. Right. And so you're like, all year long, you're like working. And then you're like, okay, it's finished, and you send it away. And then you're like, okay, what do I do now? And I was sort of still in the rhythm. And then that was the first pattern. I was like, well, I'll just keep going,
Exactly. And with the color wheel pattern that I have out now, there's a color wheel on the cover of my book. It was not a pattern that was included. It was to be for a chapter opener it was just to be a photograph for the chapter on color and fabrics. And so when the book came out and people were like, oh, I can't wait to do that color wheel. And I was thinking to myself, oh boy, the color wheel, that's not a pattern. And that color wheel was it was really big, the one that's on the cover, and took me forever. And how can I make it like something that somebody else can do, that's not quite as complicated as the one that I did? And so that's when I was like, I'm gonna try this now. And the color wheel pattern, I mean, I haven't seen finished projects that people are working on, but so far the response has been good to the pattern.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at your recent sales on Etsy, and that seems to be the predominant item is this color wheel, and it is on the cover of the book. And I like how you're saying that you essentially were listening to your customer base who was asking for it or was commenting that they were looking forward to making it. And instead of sort of, I don't know, feeling like hesitant or resistant to that ask, you met it with a pattern that they would want to use.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I wonder about hoop art itself, because, I feel like it's been around for a while, but I wondered if there was, or if you can pinpoint a particular maker or a particular book down, back in the day that sort of introduced you to this concept that you could use an embroidery hoop as a canvas to create something that would would most likely stay in the hoop. I know there was a 2013 book called Hoopla by Kirsty Neal. I don't know if you saw that book or if there was something else that introduced you to this idea.
I have seen that book. I'd have to say that two of the first stitchers that I really took notice of were Jenny Hart of Sublime Stitching and Amy Ray. And I think what I liked most about both of them when I was getting into embroidery was that they both did embroidery that wasn't super traditional. It wasn't your grandmother's embroidery. It was new and it was modern and it felt really cool and fun. And that both of those artists, I think, are who inspired me to start on my creative journey into embroidery.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting. And I feel like we all kind of inspire one another, but there's usually somebody who you can turn to and say, oh, that person's work really made me think, oh, I could do this.
Exactly. And I have so many Sublime Stitching patterns that I bought that really I worked on my embroidery skills through her patterns and Amy Ray's books of really cute, like woodland motifs and just fun little projects that I worked on to help me with getting better at embroidery and really enjoying it.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And so, I wonder what's coming down the road. Can you talk a little bit about what's next for you?
Well, I'm working on projects for Quilt Market. That's coming up. And
these are projects for other designers that you're creating with their fabric, strike-offs?
Exactly. Well, I'm working on, some stuff for Allison Glass for the Andover booth. Some Robert Kaufman things and another hoop that I'm making for Sue Spargo, she doesn't do fabric, but with her threads because hers are some of my favorite threads that I use. So I have those. And I am also working on other patterns. I just have ideas coming faster than I can create them. So that's something I'm focusing a lot on right now, trying to get those down and create them.
That's great. And I think that sewing for Quilt Market, sewing samples for people, it's a good way to forge relationships with somebody new. And obviously it can be a good way to get your name out there, although it is hard when people are walking through market to sort of, look at something and say, well, who made that, and actually identify the name. Because
there's so many.
There's so much going on.
Yes.
Although, it can happen for sure. And if your business card's right there, but it also really helps you to develop relationships with fabric companies and with other designers.
Exactly. That's been the really cool part of working for, different people for Quilt Market, the relationships that have come from that.
Yeah. And businesses are built on relationships, whether it's relationships with their customers and the patterns they're asking for, or their reactions to your book, or just a comment here and there on Instagram, or whether it's relationships with people in the industry who help to, connect you and lead you to new opportunities.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's really important. Okay. I want to make sure we get to your list because you've got some cool things to recommend. And the first one, and I saw these actually in one of your Instagram photos, I think, you have the Tula Pink micro tip scissors. Are these the ones that have that kind of iridescent
my word
finish? Yeah.
Yes. First of all, they're just the prettiest scissors ever. And yeah, they're the 4-inch micro tip ones. I love them. Every time I use them, I don't get bored with using them. And I know it's silly to think that of scissors, but her scissors are really cool. And they're so great. The fine point is really great for cutting close to the fabric without cutting your fabric on accident.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to use nice things, to
Yes.
have your space be filled with things that make you happy. And yes, it can be something small like a beautiful pair of scissors, but it enriches the experience.
The little things are the things that get me most excited when it comes to stitching and supplies. I love them. I'm a sucker for cute little things like that.
Absolutely. And you have a certain kind of needle. And I don't know, I've never used these. So they're Richard Hemming needles, especially the milliner's needles. So what are those?
So I love the milliner's needles because they're longer than an embroidery needle. They're a little bit sturdier, and I'm really rough on needles. I think most people who work with threads and embroidery are rough on needles, but these don't bend as much for me. So they can hold up to my abuse, and they work with thicker threads too, which is really nice because I've been working with a lot of, different yarn type things and thicker pearl cotton. So they work great with those.
And do you use like a needle threader at all, or are you just doing this by hand?
I have broke so many needle threaders.
What is up with those? The ones with the little wire diamond? What is up with those? They always break.
They always break. But I did just try out, Dritz sent me, they have this adorable little hummingbird needle threader. And I think it's maybe a week or so back in my post, but I'm going to be posting a video on it soon because I've been trying this needle threader with some of the thicker threads and it works great and I haven't broken it and it has really helped me. I always would try to get by without a needle threader just because they're more hassle to me. But this one, it's on my list of things I do really like. So.
Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah. I remember seeing that in your feed and we'll try to link to that too. So did Dritz just send that to you? Like they saw your stuff and were like, hey, you need this, or did you buy that?
You know what? I commented on that one that, it's, I love hummingbirds. I'm a bird person. So I was like, it's so adorable. And they did contact me then and said, would you like to try it out? Which was neat.
Okay. So again, and this is on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So again, this is like relationship building, community building, participating, being authentically you, like you do really like hummingbirds. You weren't just saying that. And down the road, that relationship could blossom into something further or not, either way, but you've developed it and, you've got a contact at Dritz now, for example.
Exactly. Nice. And it kind of endears you to a company then like, that little needle threader. Like I will buy another one of their things because of that.
Yeah. And it makes me too, as my own company, feel like, hey, if somebody does comment on something like that, maybe send them one, like maybe.
No, that's so true.
Yeah. Like go ahead and send them one and see, send them a copy of your book or send them one of your patterns or a product like that and see if they might like it with no obligation, obviously. But if they like it, then that's nice, and it does, as you said, endear people to you. So
yes, exactly.
Worth doing. Okay, yeah. So you have been using some beads and in your embroidery, incorporating seed beads and different kinds of beads. So you want to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, it kind of was funny. I was looking through, I have lots of beads. I have drawers full of beads from when I was making wedding jewelry, and I've always been into beading. But it was just a few weeks ago, I was doing a project with my son and I was going through my beads for something else. And I'm like, this size seed bead is perfect for this one project I'm working on. And it just so happened, it was the boho stitch along project. I just played with adding beads and I was like, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. So my favorite place to buy the beads is online at fusionbeads.com. And I went on there and ordered a ton of seed beads in all the colors that I didn't have, because making wedding jewelry in the past, it was a lot of silvers and grays and, muted colors. But the fabrics that I like to work with now are the bold colors and, lots of colors. So I ordered seed beads in every color, and I think you're going to see them a lot more if you follow me on Instagram, because I've been adding them to everything.
That's great. And, there's some crossover here between like art quilting. I don't know. There's something about it that sort of does resonate about art quilting, where you're, free to fuse things without stitching around them, for example, and free to incorporate different textures, yarns, beading. So, I don't know. There's definitely a little bit of a feeling of that.
Yes, definitely. I've really been into adding texture, looking for different things that aren't what you normally associate with embroidery. I've been trying to look towards incorporating into my projects.
That's awesome. Okay. And then thread, of course, we have to get to thread.
Yes.
And so you have a couple of different threads that you love, but it sounds like you are always experimenting and incorporating new threads when you find them. So
yes.
The first is, and I have to try this because I've heard you talk about it before, about the Sus Spargo Eleganza.
Yeah. Also, this relationship came through Instagram, where they contacted me and asked if I would like to try it. And I did. And I am hooked on their threads. I use them. I use the Eleganza for almost everything. It's just a great embroidery thread that you don't have to separate, which can be a pain if you're stitching a lot. It just comes on a spool. I normally use the size 8, which is about the width of 2 strands of like a DMC floss, but I've been incorporating the size 5, which is a little bit thicker, into a lot of things. And I like that that thread shows up a lot on the fabrics that I use.
So is it more like a twisted pearl cotton where you're not separating?
It is. It's a pearl cotton. She's collaborated with Wonderful Specialty Threads and come up with all of the colors. And the colors, I think, are what really catch my eye, because they're great colors that work with, the Allison Glass and the Anna Maria Horner fabrics really well. They just go with everything.
That's cool. Yeah. And, for you, these beads and this specialty thread, it's really like your paint box.
Yes. I have my art bin sitting here on the table, and it's brimming with, my paints, which are my threads, and the, embellishments, which are the beads. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you have a couple more threads that are textured threads that you'd like to recommend: silk, linen, seagrass, which I don't know what that is, mohair, and all of them come from the Thread Gatherer.
Yeah, the Thread Gatherer has a lot of different textures, because I don't want to get bored with what I use. So I am always looking for other things to use. Another one, they have silk thread that just the different textures and varieties. The mohair, I like that it lets little fibers show in your art, which I think is neat. So it's all about just incorporating fun textures.
And is the Thread Gatherer an online shop where you can go to find all of these different threads in one place?
Yes. I think through their page, they have an Etsy shop, which is where they sell everything.
Oh, okay. On Etsy. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you, just to loop back to Etsy for 1 minute, are you happy with Etsy? Are you feeling confined by Etsy, or are you like, is there a reason, I guess, why you've stuck with Etsy? Any plans to, also open your own shop?
Etsy just works for me. It's simple. I've just done it, since it's been years now. So it's just, I'm comfortable with it. I know a lot of artists sell things directly through them, which would definitely cut out the middleman. But for me right now, not having to concentrate on something else and just going with Etsy, which is comfortable to me and people feel comfortable using it, for the near future, that's what I see going with, because I am happy with it.
And I wonder whether people discover you organically on Etsy. In other words, that aren't being driven to Etsy from Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't go on Etsy a ton. I know they used to have the front page feature where, I would have a hoop featured and people would find me that way. I don't really know if people are finding me through Etsy or if it's just through the link, through my Instagram profile. But either way, it is working.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for both ease of use on your end and comfort on the customer side.
Yes, exactly. And it's familiar. Everybody knows about Etsy now. When it first got started, I don't think people knew about it exactly, but now you hear Etsy and you know what it is. So it is comfortable for people to use.
Right. Okay. That's good for people to hear. And then you had one more thread you wanted to recommend from Lion Brand. They're the bonbons, which are thinner than yarn, but thicker than thread. I've never tried these. They
come in packs. I think they come in packs of 8 I found them in the yarn aisle at Joann, just like hanging there. And I, fell for them because they're little tiny like balls of yarn, which are adorable. So I bought them in different colors, and I didn't know how they would work to embroider with because they are a little bit thicker, but I've had no problem at all threading needles and using it. And it just adds a little bit of raised texture and something different than thread. So it's a little fun.
That's really cool. These are all really good suggestions that people can, for not very much money, add to their art box, as you said, and then have some new things to play with. I think a selection of neat yarns like that and some needles, maybe the Tula Pink scissors and a boho embroidery, the book, would be an amazing gift for somebody.
I agree, definitely.
We need to put together some little gift baskets.
Yes,
that's really, honestly, that would be such a special present. So I think that's great. Aww. So, well, Nichole, Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the While She Naps podcast. I had so much fun talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I did too.
Oh, good. And you've been listening to the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Visit my blog, whileshenaps.com, where you can sign up for my email newsletter to get the best in sewing, blogging, and small business delivered right to your inbox each week. Today's episode was sponsored by the International Association of Creative Arts Professionals. Make your dream of a creative business into a reality with help from ICAP. For more than 20 years, ICAP has been the go-to resource for thousands of creatives around the world. Whether you're looking for peer support through their Creative Passion to Profit Facebook group, help taking your business to the next level through their annual membership, the chance to work not in your business, but on your business at their annual conference, or private coaching, you'll find just what you need. Head over to joinicap.com/whileshenaps and grab your free creative arts business blueprint and poster to get started. And if you decide to uplevel your business with an ICAP Elevating membership, you'll enjoy 10% off if you use the coupon code ABBY, that's all caps ABBY, when you check out. Thank you so much, ICAP. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.